Hello, mystery book fans. In part one of this series, I explained how the phrase mystery books has come to be used in two different ways. It could be used to mean what perhaps I could call actual mystery books, as a type of adult fiction different from many other genres of adult fiction. On the other hand, the expression mystery books is widely used to more broadly include both mysteries and thrillers, or more specifically, crime fiction thrillers. We previously explained that both of these kinds of books have one thing in common. They both include a crime or some sort of injustice. This is why many prefer the term crime fiction as the broad term to include both mystery books and thriller books. Well, in this video, we'll look at three ways that mysteries and thrillers are different. Three theories to help distinguish mysteries from thrillers. Now, before getting into these three theories, please keep in mind that distinguishing between mysteries and thrillers is not as clear-cut as the dotted line there in between suggests. Instead, there is a lot of overlap between mysteries and thrillers. Even the professionals seem at a loss as to how to label or categorize a book. I'm talking now about the publishers and authors. Let's start with the Mystery Writers of America. To be a full member of this group, you must have already written a book and gotten it published by one of their approved publishers. That's no small feat. Their members, every year since 1954, have created an awards committee from its members, mainly authors, to choose books and writers for various awards, which they call the Edgar Awards. In 1978, The Eye of the Needle was published in England and in the USA the following year. The author, Ken Follett, was 29 years old when it was first published. It wasn't his first book, but it was his first huge bestseller. Our Mystery Book Club read The Eye of the Needle just as the pandemic was starting in April of 2020. If you read the book's description on Amazon or other websites, it says that it is an exciting tale. But cleverly, the book description never calls it a mystery and never calls it a thriller either. And yet the authors on the 1979 Awards Committee at the Mystery Writers of America gave The Eye of the Needle its top Edgar Award. It's called the Best Novel Award, but theoretically they mean Best Mystery, since after all this is a group of mystery writers. Years later, in 2013, he was given the highest honor bestowed by the Mystery Writers of America. And he doesn't even live in America. He's from the UK. But it's called the Grand Master Award for Lifetime Achievement and Consistent Quality. And one more thing. A few years before that, in 1995, the Mystery Writers of America asked its members to nominate books to be on a list of the best 100 mystery books of all time. Well, when you talk about of all time, that's a lot of books, thousands of books. And of all those thousands, a book by Agatha Christie got the most votes out of all of these books, and it became number one on that list of 100 books. But The Eye of the Needle also made it onto the list in 28th place. So, clearly it is mystery writers awarding the best mystery book of the year, and clearly, if it's on the list of 100 best mystery books, it's a mystery, right? Well, not so fast. I think some of you are acquainted with Joe Finder. And here are 6 of, I think, 17 books he has written. You may have read The Oligarch's Daughter or one of his other books. Well, a few years ago, Joe wrote a brief review about The Eye of the Needle on Goodreads, ending with these words: "This is a book I have used to teach the art of the thriller." Thriller? And yet the mystery writers of America call it a mystery. Well, perhaps we could get more help if we turn to a different group of authors. In this case, the international thriller writers. Let's see if they can help us better at clarifying the messy difference between mysteries and thrillers. Well, if we go to the organization's website and click on their About page, there they tell us that their members write books broadly classified as thrillers. And thrillers would include, but isn't limited to, such subjects as murder mystery, detective, suspense, and so on. Yeah, so very helpful. You know, I don't know, being a little bit facetious or cynical or whatever, I'm going to put it like this. Maybe it comes down to the international thriller writers saying thrillers can include mysteries. Meanwhile, the mystery writers of America say mysteries can include thrillers. Well, do you see why I keep saying crime fiction is probably a lot better word to include all of this stuff? Well, with all of that in mind, let's dig into those 3 possible differences between mysteries and thrillers. Are you ready? Number 1, mysteries look backward. This is theory number 1. Mysteries look backward. A mystery is about trying to figure out what happened in the past. There's a crime, and so somebody is searching for evidence and clues and witnesses to find out what happened in the past. On the other hand, thrillers look forward. In other words, they're trying to stop something bad from happening in the future. It's a difference in the way an author tells or narrates the plot of a story. Or, as 2 book editors explain, it's a difference in the narrative engine. So we're going to compare what 2 editors tell us about the narrative engine for mysteries versus thrillers. They give an illustration that goes like this. In a mystery, you have, let's say, a woman is found dead in a locked room. This is just an example. A detective studies the clues and interviews suspects, and what would the climax be? The climax would be the end of the book, right? It reveals who committed the murder. So you'll learn that at the end of the story. And on the other hand, in the thriller, we have a serial killer commits a locked room murder, and more than one, and it seems to be a signature for this serial killer to use locked rooms. Well, an investigator realizes that another victim will die soon, and the climax of the story would be to stop that next murder successfully, to stop the killer. So it's looking to the future in the sense of, this could happen. What can we do about it? How can we stop it? To summarize, you have the same ingredients, but a different narrative engine. And I have to say that I have heard of this particular difference between mysteries and thrillers a number of times over the past years. But I was happy to just recently find the above illustration at darlingaxe.com, which was these two editors I was talking about. So I think that the little illustration part of it helps. All right, let's go on to theory number 2 about the difference between mysteries and thrillers. And it comes down to when the identity of the bad guy is revealed in the book. Typically in a mystery book, it is at the end of the story, or as important clues are discovered by the protagonists. That's why mysteries are often called whodunits. On the other hand, in a thriller, you know who the bad guy is early in the story. Often that is to show how evil and ruthless the antagonist is, and thus to increase the suspense. You may be told things about the bad guy early in the book that the hero does not yet know about. Another way to understand difference number 2 is as a continuum. So starting from the right on where the red side is, this is where the reader finds out the identity of the antagonist right at the start. And we move to blue on the other end, where you don't know until the very, very end. And this could be anywhere in between the very end or the beginning of the book that you get the answer to who the bad guy is. So if we wanted to put an example here, I would say that, that book we mentioned from the previous video, My Sister the Serial Killer, that's a pretty good example of where the identity is revealed to us. Right? It's on the cover. So obviously we know even before opening the book. Okay, and The Eye of the Needle that we mentioned already is a thriller, a good one, where the identity of the bad guy as a Nazi spy is revealed to the reader somewhat gradually, but by the middle of the book, you know pretty well who this guy is, because there are certain chapters devoted to telling you about what the spy is doing and what he's up to. So on the other extreme here are two very different books, different kinds of books. where the antagonist is revealed. The thing that's similar is the antagonist is revealed at the very end of the story. I don't know, it's like the next to the last chapter or something like that. And I was shocked with the revelation at the end of both books the first time I read them. And frankly, for me, of the three theories we're talking about, the differences between mysteries and thrillers, this one has always been pretty much my favorite one. Probably because it's the simplest and to some extent the most objective, about as objective as can be in a messy situation like this. So I tend to like this. I have to say that I just was not fully aware of Theory 1 before making this video, like I explained. But now I can, after learning a little more about Theory 1, I can understand that the view that I've held for so long, which is this number 2 view, is probably derived from theory number 1. Like how the revealing the antagonist at the end of the story is part of the narrative engine, where the hero is constantly looking into the past for clues. And likewise, if the author tells you who the bad guy is near the start of the story, the narrative engine is going to be how to stop this future crime or even a catastrophe. So, before going to difference 3, what about Joe Finder's book, The Oligarch's Daughter? For me, it was a definite page turner. Did you read it? Would you call it a mystery or a thriller? Well, this is based on this point alone, difference number 2, right? I want you to be thinking about it. Nevertheless, on the book's promotional page on Joe's website, there are many, many positive reviews, brief positive reviews, right? And the interesting thing is that both Joe and many reviewers clearly refer to the book as a thriller. In fact, I've highlighted the word thriller, which appears 15 times on that page. Well, I love the book, but let's apply difference theory number 2. Was the person trying to kill Paul revealed in the book title or any place in the first half of the book? No. Or even the first 70% of the book? No. So, respectfully, I moved the book to be solidly on the mystery side of this line, because, we're trying to, the whole thing is that he's constantly trying to figure out who's after him, who's trying to kill him. And the people trying to kill him change a little bit, but the person behind it all is revealed at the very end. So, look, I understand why a lot of people would call it a thriller, because it is exciting, it's a page turner, it has a constant dose of suspense. And a lot of people think of thrillers, they think of suspense, like thrilling. So let's talk about the word suspense, shall we? about the technical delay there. The dictionary says that suspense is is a state of excited or anxious uncertainty about what may happen. Not everyone really wants that feeling of anxiousness, and so those sorts of folks won't like books with heavy doses of suspense. But other people do like it the same way some people like roller coasters. So what can I tell you? We're all different. Well, if a person writes a good the whole point of suspense is to keep people engaged. That's the purpose of using it. And if you're writing a good mystery book, you don't necessarily need a lot of suspense, because, hey, it's a puzzle. You want to find out, you're engaged in the case. You're curious about who done it. And that's what makes it interesting, together with character and setting and all the rest of it. But if a person is writing a thriller, they do have a harder job of keeping your attention, keeping your interest, keeping you engaged in reading the book. So, therefore, they use danger. And there are many uncertainties to create suspense, but be assured the author will include some or many dangers to keep you in a state of tension, anxious uncertainty. Will our hero get out of the room alive? Or will something else happen? See, the amount of suspense will vary depending on the type of mystery, but authors hope that you find their book to be a page turner, something that keeps you engaged, and suspense is one big way to make that happen. But does the amount of suspense in crime fiction help us distinguish between a mystery and a thriller? Yes, it does help a little, but you must keep in mind that both mysteries and thrillers can have a lot of suspense. Now consider the dark color red to represent maximum suspense. Now, in the case of mysteries, the degree of suspense ranges down to all the way down to little or none. Little or no suspense, which means the coloring lightens until we get to white, meaning no suspense. See, a lot of the English so-called locked room mysteries or country house mysteries from the golden age of mystery writing would be an example of little suspense, or maybe even no suspense, like Tied Up in Tinsel by Niall Marsh, or the Hercule Poirot stories by Agatha Christie. Readers are attracted to these and similar plots not by the suspense, but by the puzzle in the plot, in the same way that people have fun solving other kinds of puzzles. Well, I've already said that I think The Oligarch's Daughter is a mystery book, and I would put it over here at the far end of the example, a mystery book that is full of suspense from start to finish. So I think you'll have to make up your own mind which of these three theories, are most important to you. Just to finish this out here about thrillers, as we go to the other side of the dotted line, we already know that thrillers, like mysteries, can have a lot of suspense, but the difference being it ranges down only to moderate and or periodic suspense. It never goes down to little or no suspense. Here's the graphic, and the real difference is only on the far left end. One reason, and I've mentioned this already, is the fact that there is no mystery if the antagonist is revealed early. So the author has to use other devices to keep the reader engaged. And one of these devices is threats of danger and increasing the number and types of dangers. A second reason for putting in the suspense relates to how the book is marketed by the publisher and the author. If they call it a thriller, then it better have suspense, at least to some degree, or the reader will be disappointed. Suspense would be expected. And again, that's because a lot of people see that word thriller, they think thrill, and they think suspense and being thrilled and being chilled and so forth is expected. There actually is a difference between between the word thrill and suspense, but that's another story. Well, for examples, I'll put down here at the far end, full of suspense from start to finish, the book Absolute Power by David Baldacci, under, like I said, under full of suspense from start to finish. And I'll use the Eye of the Needle as a good example of periodic and moderate suspense throughout the book. It builds toward the end. Well, we've now completed my list of 3 theories for distinguishing mysteries from thrillers. I know that people automatically equate thriller to suspense, but I'm trying to show you there's more to it. Here's a summary page, which will be available in a PDF should you be interested. In the third and final video, I'll sharpen our insight about crime fiction from an analysis of New York Times best-selling books. Until then, happy reading.